Hello, wannabes and creators, and welcome to another episode of The Business of Art, the podcast that demystifies business for artists. And today on the show, we have Monica Leonelle. Now, Monica emailed me a couple of months ago about being on the show, and I booked her. And then I started looking for people to model when releasing a nonfiction book. I asked a lot of author friends about the best series or the best book they have ever read about becoming a better writer or becoming a better book marketer. And a lot of times people would say Monica Leonelle. I'd say, man, I remember that name. Where do I know that name? Where do I know that name? It turns out a couple of weeks ago when I was preparing for this episode, her name popped up again. And I was like, oh yeah, I already have her on the show. Awesome. That's someone I don't have to reach out to. And honestly, y'all, she brought the thunder. We talked about a lot of different stuff when it comes to marketing yourself and your books than you may be used to on this show, and I'm excited to get them to you. But before I do, I wanted to let you know that the first chapter of my book, Sell Your Soul, How to Build Your Creative Career, is still free at GoSellYourSoul.com. The book is coming out in less than a month, so this is a very, very timely episode, and I would love for you to check out the first chapter before it launches. So head on over to GoSellYourSoul.com and check it out today. This is the book I made for you, the people that listen to this show, based on everything you've been telling me over the last few years. So I hope you love it. Head on over to GoSellYourSoul.com and check it out today. And now, let's get on with the show. Take it away, Monica. Tell us what you're passionate about these days.
So I'm really excited. Well, so a big part of what I'm excited about these days is I'm launching a new brand. So that's kind of the thing on my mind. So I've been doing Prose on Fire for about 5 years, and I'm moving over to a new brand called The World Needs Your Book. And the idea behind it is moving away from the, the message of get a certain number of books out, make a certain amount of money, that sort of thing, and moving toward how can you make an impact on the world with your book. And how can you do that in a way that still supports you and still sustains your business and usually even grows your business significantly, but how can we put the message and the impact first in terms of the book? And then, of course, everything that falls behind it, like your own personal dreams and goals and then your business goals, all of that is still there, but how can we just kind of flip the switch or flip the story on that messaging?
Yeah, this is a very interesting thing because I come from, I have several businesses and have had them for a while now. And in the business world, most of the conversation is about impact. But for some reason in even the nonfiction book world, the conversation seems to be about impact. And in the prose world, for some reason, when I started researching how to make money as a fiction author, it turned out to be all about quantity of books and speed and voraciousness of how fast you can turn that out. Do you find that have you found that to be true in your own trials?
Oh yeah, absolutely. And the reality is neither is bad. And I've been part of that community for so long. And actually, I mean, some of the things that I put out, my first foray into that community was a book called Write Better Faster. So it was very much this message of personally, I felt like I needed to write faster. And then the thing that I was able to teach people or to share with people was how I had learned how to write significantly faster. And so that is just still a prominent message. And I think it's an important message, and I think it's a true message, because I do think if you want to make a full-time living from just books, I mean, the reality is that a book does not cost very much. Most independent authors or even, traditionally published authors, their book is between $4.99 and $9.99. And you have to sell a lot to be able to make a full-time living off of that small, that low price point. So I think it is true for anybody who wants to be a career author, and where my business is going and where it's expanding is really to a place where, it's not just books. It's not just like a $5 ebook that I'm selling. It could be, a course that's attached to it or a live event or all sorts of other stuff. And I think that this message is coming into that community. And I'm seeing more people putting together like live events for fiction readers and like all sorts of cool stuff, and really looking at ways that they can expand their business beyond just the books, which is incredible. And I think on the business side, what I do hear the impact message, but a lot of times it seems like it's not necessarily so much about impact, but it's also about like numbers in terms of audience. So that's something that I'm trying to think of, like, how can we tweak that to really get it back to like, what is the impact and what is the message or story that you really need to share with the world and that only you can share?
Yeah, I'm conflicted because part of me says that like it should be just about the impact that you can share, but the other part of me says yes, but the more people that are in your audience, the more you can impact. So if you have 50,000 people in your audience, you're just going to be impacting things on a greater level than if you have 5 people in your audience, because all of those things spider out. So how do you focus back on, it's about what you can impact, knowing that like the more people that you impact, the bigger the bigger audience, the more people you can impact.
Yeah, I think it comes down to what's your starting point? So are you starting with like, I know I can sell this message to 50,000 people, or are you starting with, this is the message that I know needs to be heard. How can I reach all the people that need to hear it? And I think that's where it's really, to me, it's where you're starting. It's like, if you think that this message is valuable to all these people out there, then so what I do is, so I was a copywriter for years. And so if you break down a book, especially a nonfiction book, but even a fiction book, you can see like all these little psychological triggers and like hooks that are in books that make them more sticky and make them more sellable. So it's really coming from a place of like, this is the message that you want to share. How do you share that in the stickiest and most impactful way you can? And I think that can be taught, that piece. What I think that some people do is they figure out like, here's what the market wants, and so I'm going to just kind of write to that market. That is also fine. It's a balance, I guess, because you do want to write to the market, and you also want to write what you need to write, and you also want to have a big impact, but you don't want to put like numbers first. And so there's kind of this balance between all of it. And I believe that it can all come together in this really resonant way where you're aligned with your book and your book is aligned with your audience, and like the message is just flowing easily through that, and all the business stuff works out and all the money stuff works out, and just kind of, maybe it's like a utopian scenario, but that's really what I'm hoping to teach with this new brand, is how can you get to that place where like you're not having those massive compromises that I do think a lot of authors are having, where it's like they feel like they have to write this certain thing to make money, and it's just kind of this I don't know, it's like two sides instead of just everything is aligned. So I think the alignment is what I'm hoping to share with people.
Yeah, I mean, so I believe that the alignment for me came when I started having people. So I just wrote whatever I wanted when I first started. And the alignment for me came when people started buying my book and then telling me what they wanted.
Yes, yeah.
Like, they eventually started telling me what they wanted, and I was like, well, I like that thing, so I'm going to just make this thing for you guys because you guys said you wanted it, and then the audience grew from there. So when somebody doesn't have that audience to kind of tell them what they want, and then you guys can kind of jive together. Because I do think it can get that symbiotic relationship starts to, like, at least for me, it like started gathering steam and building up momentum as people started buying my books and people started knowing who I was. And I was like, oh, you guys all want a book about how to build a creative business. I'm going to do that book. Oh, you guys like monsters. Well, I like that. I'm going to do this comic book about this comic book monster anthology. So when somebody doesn't have that audience first, like, what is the first step to sort of be in alignment, or like how do you get into alignment?
Well, yeah, and I think if you don't have that audience yet, then I think the only thing you can align to is yourself. And I think it starts just the way you said. And I experienced the same thing. So I wrote a book, Write Better Faster. It was really supposed to be like the only book about writing fast, or, increasing your writing speed. And then I kept getting all these questions, and it was a ton of questions, like filling my inbox. And I kept answering them individually, and then I was like, you know what? This is like what people want to read. Like, this is all the stuff that they think is not in my book that they think should have been. Because when I had written that first book, I kind of thought, like, this is literally everything I have to say about this. Like, I'm leaving it all on the table. And then all these questions came in. And so then I ended up writing 2 more books, and both of those books ended up being more popular than the original for kind of the same exact reason that you said, which is just that it's like what the audience wants. That's what is going to grow your audience when you get that feedback. But yeah, I think starting with yourself and, like, what do you want to share with the world, and start to recruit those initial readers. So you're going to get your early adopters is maybe what they're called, but you're going to get that initial audience that is willing to support you and find out what their questions are about the topic, and then that can often spur a new topic or a new book. And then the other thing that I've found is just my own growth journey. So, like, all my books about writing, they're all about my own growth journey. And usually if I write a book about it, it's like the year before that was something I was struggling with, and then I had to learn about it. And so I've kind of followed my own growth journey as well. And I've seen this with other authors too, or even people who want to be authors. It's like they start down this path and they learn, the basics about it. And they maybe do a course or write a book or whatever about that. And then they realize there's something so much deeper. And so then they go to, like, this next level of deepness on it. And there's nobody necessarily asking them for that. Often it's people are still trying to ask about that original piece of work, but they know there's something deeper, so then they can also create that and put that out into the world. And so I guess to me it's these two areas, and for me that's how I've always decided what the next thing is. Like right now with The World Needs Your Book, that shift for me is all about my own growth journey. Like, that's where I know that the industry, or that my industry is going, and that's where I know there are people who need my help. And nobody's necessarily asking me for that, but I'm just kind of trusting myself. And I know that I'll find an audience, and I'm already starting to find an audience for it. And I also know that the people on the Pros on Fire side, I know that in a couple years, this is where they're going to get to, is the impact piece of it. And the idea that they don't have to build their income just off of books, because that is very, very challenging to do. You have to find a ton of readers to be able to do that. And so I know that in a couple years, or maybe in the next year, they're going to be moving more toward how can, like, this isn't just about books, but how can I build an online business that may be centered around books, but that I have these other income streams as well.
Yeah, let's talk about money for a second, because like this is a really important thing that I talk to people about all the time. And you talked about $5 books versus a course, which could be anywhere from $100 to $1,000, to a live event, which could be anywhere from $500 to $2,500, to coaching, personal coaching, which could be anywhere from $1,000 to $50,000 for every time like somebody hits that buy button. So you're right. In order to make $50,000 a year gross, you would have to get 10,000 readers to buy your book, and that's not even taking Amazon's fee into account at $5, $4.99, $5, right? Am I correct?
No, that's right.
And to get someone to get a $1,000 course, you need 50 people. For someone to get to go to a $500 live event, you need 100 people in order to make that same income. Right. So it takes a much smaller audience, but a much more dedicated audience in order to sell $1,000 product. Like, you just need like 50 raving fans who are willing to give you $1,000. Those same 50 raving fans might still give you that $5 and $10 and $20 and $30 and $50, but you need less amount of much more dedicated fans to make that business model work, where you're selling $1,000 course, right?
Exactly. But I also think that it can all work together. So, for example, if you have this, course, and then you also have this book, the book can actually, it can actually sell people into the course pretty easily. And I know just from personal experience that so I've had over 100 students take my courses in the last year, which is it's not big numbers by any means, but we just started doing courses at the end of 2016. So in less than a year, we've had over 100 students in our courses. And I know that pretty much everybody who is in my courses, they have read my books, either one book or sometimes multiple books. And so I know that, so this is it's not an either or at this point. It's looking more like a sales funnel, which is a good thing. And so I know that, when people read my books, that is what invests them in, my work or being a fan or whatever you'd like to call it. And it brings them into deeper alignment. It has a larger impact on them. Like I've had, hundreds and hundreds of people say like, reading this book has changed my writing routine or whatever. So I know that there's impact. And then it's really, if they want to go even deeper, then they can do the course. And that's what I've always said in the marketing for that course is like, if you want to go deeper, then do the course with me. And that's how we can explore even more. And I think that this type of business model is important, because then, maybe you don't have 10,000 readers for your book, or maybe you do, and you're able to get those 10,000 readers, but now you also have something for them to go on to, and maybe a fraction of them goes on. So if you say 1%, so we'll say 100 go on, and then they're in the course. And so now you've actually, like, you're not making 50,000 or 50,000, you're making 50,000 and 50,000, if that makes sense. And this is, to me, this is how you can build a much more sustainable business around books, especially with, Amazon is an incredible opportunity, but it's also a gatekeeper to some extent. Like, if you get your account shut down, you're screwed. If you get your book pulled, you're screwed. If you lose your reviews, that hurts you. And so when you're dealing with these other third party entities, then that can cause you pain, and that can be a breaking point in your business, where you are making this much and then there's like an Amazon algorithm change or like Amazon terms change, and now you're making, something significantly less. So it's really important as a business owner to open up your options, really. So something some of the stuff I've been studying lately has been around mindset and manifestation and law of attraction. And something that they say about money mindset, and it's one of the most basic things, is that you don't like the way that you can create money is you don't want to limit your options. So when I look at a lot of authors, especially career authors, it's like they're limiting their options because they're like on this one really specific platform and it's like only $5 ebooks and it's one series or whatever. And so that like really, really narrows how you can create wealth or income. Where if you open your mind to this other stuff that you could do, now you have, 3 avenues or 5 avenues, and that money starts to come in just a lot easier because you've opened your options.
Right, and you can get somebody to buy more things from you. I mean, what you're basically talking about is a value ladder, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Can you explain to the audience who may not know what a value ladder is, what a value ladder is?
Sure. So I don't know specifically that term, but I'm assuming you're just saying just the idea of like you have a small product that may be $5 and then you add more value to it and maybe it's like a course or something, and so that's like $500. And so you keep bringing people deeper into your sales funnel by creating more value, maybe in a different format, and people will buy the lowest item first. That brings them in, and then a portion of them will go to the next rung on the ladder of like a higher price product, and then the next, like a fraction of those people will go to the next rung that is an even higher price product or service. And then they continue, and you basically are able to build a really large and secure business by having this value ladder or sales funnel in place.
Right. I mean, you need a lot of people to get into the cheap or the free, then to the cheap book, because you have to have a ton of people at the bottom of that sales funnel, because only a couple of people, a very small percentage will matriculate to the next level, and then a small percentage of those will matriculate to the next level, and on and on and on into infinitum. So it's still important to have a bunch of people reading those books, but instead of it being important because that is the main crux of your business, it is important because you need them to read the book, so a certain percentage of them will matriculate to the next levels. And then you're able to make an impact. Let's not say make more money on them, but you're able to serve them at a higher level.
Yeah. I mean, the other thing that's great about that is that you really have the money to advertise your book more. And so this is something else that I see for authors who are making their money primarily off of books, is that you don't have enough margin to pay for advertising costs, and advertising just is going going up. It's been going up. It's going to continue going up. What is the one resource that we don't have enough of? It's attention. So advertising, cost per click and all that stuff, those are going to continue rising. And I don't really see a ceiling on it at this point. I just know that whatever it costs me to advertise this year, it's going to cost me more next year. And so if you're not building that value ladder, then you're not going to have the high enough priced item to where you can start putting that money back into getting more people to your book. And so that's another thing that that is going to become really important in this industry.
Yeah, because I'm gonna be honest. I've been looking at Facebook ads, and I've been running Facebook ads, and like I have no idea how somebody can make a Facebook ad function profitably, selling a 99-cent or $2.99 book. Like I understand there are people that can get redirects and have it honed in and can get like 2-cent, 3-cent, 5-cent, 10-cent, 20-cent clicks. I think they're wizards. Like I can't get less than like 30, 40 cents to save my life. And those people don't all
Right.
convert when I send them to Amazon. So like now I'm spending 30 cents times, let's say 3 people will like, so now I'm spending 90 cents to make a $1.99 or whatever 70% of 2.99
Right.
is. And so I go to them and I'm like, like I don't get it. Like I don't understand. Like I understand what you're saying. I can put the same information in and target the same audience, and you are getting a cheaper cost per click. So if you're getting a 2 cent cost per click and you're selling a 99-cent ebook, or you're getting Amazon, you're getting like Kindle, a lot of Kindle reads, cool. Like you are a wizard to me, because I've always had a motto, which is the person who spends the most on marketing
Right.
wins. And not wanting to have those small margins, most of our books are hardcovers previously. Like I'm now getting into doing more ebooks and like series and such. But our books previously have been $30. Like they're $30 hardcover books. I understand that. It gives me a $27 margin to market a thing. Like if I have a $2 click, it would cost me $3 to sell that book.
Yeah.
Oh well, I still get $25.
Right.
So I totally get what you're saying in this, and it sounds very analogous to what I have found personally myself. Aside from the few wizards that I've found who can somehow manipulate the Facebook algorithm to give them massively low cost per click.
Yeah. And I think that that is great as well, but it then becomes a contest. So it's like, which contest do you want to play to win? Is it that you want to get your clicks as low as possible and hope that the Facebook algorithm doesn't change? Or because eventually you may be getting 4 cent clicks now, but eventually that advertising cost is going to double or triple. So then, you might still be able to do the same exact thing, but now it's costing like 12 cents. And so to me, the race to the bottom for cost per click it's not a game I would want to play. And it is a very hard game as well. Like you said, I also am not able to get that click through rate. But I'm like you in that I don't want to depend on that. Like I would rather have really good margins on my stuff. So then if I make a mistake, my business is still growing. And I think that's something that is a little bit, it's not a prominent message yet in the space that I'm in, at least, primarily with career authors. So but it's coming is the problem. It's like, you can see the future of like advertising costs keep going up, and you have to prepare for making this a sustainable business in the future, not just something that is there for a couple years, but something that 5 years from now, something that is protected from like Facebook ad algorithm changes and Amazon terms of service changes and drops in KU pricing and all these factors that are out of our control. We want to see how we can mitigate that risk.
Yes, I mean, there's another thing that not many people who are career authors talk about, or career independent authors talk about, and that's some people just don't want to write 6 books a year.
Yeah.
They don't want to continue. They don't want a series that's 10 books long. Like, that's just not the thing that they want. Like, it's not fun for them to write a long series or continue a series that is like past being fun just so they can make money on it. And yes, like there's this, I'm one of these people, like I can maybe eke out a trilogy and make it still fun for me. But once you get to 5, 6, 7 books, like I want to go on. And like that algorithm that we're talking about, it starts working better when you have 10, 12 books in a series. Like once you can get past book 4 to book 5 or 6, I forget what the numbers were. It's like it goes down for the first couple and then it goes back up in like from 4 to 11. So if you're going to write 11 book series, you have a chance to succeed because you can still run ads to it, you can still do all this stuff to it. But if you don't want to be that author, like, the options to be successful in this game are very small.
Right. Yeah, no, I totally agree. And so, yeah, there are lots of people who don't want to be that author, because being that author also is very, very hard. Like, it's not just a preference. It's also like, even if you did want to write 11 books, like, that's a big investment. You're not going to be able to write 11 books in like the first 6 months of your author career. So it's like, now you're committing to, something that's like probably at least 2 years of your life, even if you're writing really fast, to get to a point where you can, like you said, you have enough of that margin. Because what we're talking about is, once you have 10 books, for example, now you're selling essentially a $40 product instead of a $5 product, or sorry, a $50 product instead of a $5 product, which means that you can send ads to that first book. And
right, exactly.
Yeah, and that's not easy to do. It's not easy to get to that point. It's not easy to, you could get to that point and maybe it's not as great of a product as you want, or it's not as popular as you hoped. There are definitely, I think it's really important to have those other options. And maybe not get so attached or so clingy to this idea of just writing books, which I think a lot of people do, when it's like, you're developing these skills to market your books, and you could apply that to a course, or you could apply that to all sorts of stuff, services, whatever. And your return on time and energy and all of that is going to be so much greater, because it's just a higher priced product or service.
Right. And what's weird is, so you can tell me if you've found this too, is people will pay more for pretty much the same content if it's repackaged in different ways. So like a $5 book might be also a $20 audiobook, or $25 audiobook, or it may be a $60 audiobook, and it may be a $200 course, and it may be a $500 or $1,000 like lesson by lesson individual sale, if you're walking somebody through it. And the more you can dive into these things, the more people will pay for these same rough guidelines, but repackaged in a more immersive format.
Yes, I've 100% found that. And the way I think about it is, you're giving people, it may be the same information, or, what feels like the same content, but it's a different experience. And that's what I've found is, like, most of the value seems to be in the experience that you're giving, and not necessarily the information that you're giving, which makes a ton of sense, because a lot of that information is online anyway. Like, somebody could conceivably find all of it for free if they needed to, and if they wanted to do that research. And so, yeah, I mean, I absolutely find the same thing. Most of my books, they're fairly complete in their information, and those people still want to take the courses because maybe the book didn't get them to where they want to go, or maybe they have specific questions, or maybe they just want to support you in a deeper way, or maybe they want to do a Q&A with you, or be on a call with you, or maybe they want to see the same stuff in video format. And yeah, absolutely, I find the same exact thing, which is basically that whatever your content is and whatever that work is that you're doing, you can just repackage it into different formats, and people love it. They want to keep going. And I'm the same way with buying stuff. Like, I might have read someone's book. That usually makes me more interested in their work, and I want to go to like a live event to meet them, and to establish that more personal connection. And I'll pay quite a bit to do that. So yeah, I think it's the same. As far as fiction goes, I think it's really the same concept again, which is that people, they want the audiobook. They they want the television series, they want the movie, they want the author meet and greet. And so they want a lot of these same things. And so for fiction authors, it's all about how can you be creative in creating those opportunities. So like one author I saw very recently, she created this like reader signing festival where she got like a bunch of authors together and they're all going to be signing their books over the course of 3 days, and there's like a cosplay party and like a bunch of other stuff that fiction readers would love. And so I don't know the details of how she put the event together, but my hope would be that she found a way to make it really nice and profitable for herself as well. That would be my hope. And that can be like another stream of income in her fiction business, which is great because she's like, obviously that's going to build her audience significantly, just by being kind of a leader and putting together this event. It's going to build her network significantly of other fiction authors that she can maybe cross promote with. And then, hopefully it's also bringing in that extra money that she can use for, use to just like build her business, or that she takes as her income, or whatever it might be. So I think there are so many opportunities for career authors, and it's really just about like opening your mind to them, expanding your options, and taking a little bit of pressure off of your writing as well. And so that you're not like, okay, well, I need to make this much next year, so I've got to do this type of series that's like really tightly written to market, and it's got to be a 10-book series, like you said, because that's what succeeds right now. But take that pressure off, and then you can really continue to write what you want, and you also have like these other streams of income, of value, of impact that you're putting together.
And if you want to write that 10-book series, like there are authors who do love that.
Absolutely.
Authors that love writing the 10-book, and then they love writing 100,000-word plus novels, and that is great for them. That means that you're like, if you're an epic fantasy person who wants to write a 12-book series, congratulations. You can write it really fast, congratulations. You probably just hit upon a very lucrative kind of book that will sell.
Yes, definitely.
Like, just like there are people, and I don't want to, like, you might not like this comparison, people who are listening, but if there are Michael Bay type people who really love blockbuster movies. They love making blockbuster movies. Like it's James Cameron, that Steven Spielberg, the kind of movie that the audience really wants hits on a massive niche. Hits on a massive, like everybody wants to watch a Steven Spielberg movie or read a Stephen King book. And that is great if you are that person who immediately just their sensibilities, what they want to make, hits like out of the park product market fit. But there are a lot of people who don't want to do that. And it is actually a chore for them to write a 12-book, 100,000-word epic fantasy series. People like me, who that is not the sensibility. And if that's not your sensibility, then the things that we're talking about with Monica make a whole lot of sense. Because, like, you might not have to write 20 books a year, or 10 books, or release 8 books a year. Or you can write less books that you find have a bigger impact if you follow these kind of, like, adding multiple streams of income strategies that we're talking about, right?
Yeah. No, I mean, I think it's exactly that. Right now, if you look at the industry, and I guess I'm talking a lot about like really independent authors is kind of the niche that I'm in, but I think this is true for traditional as well. If you look at those authors and like the careers, it seems like there's this really specifically defined template, and everyone is trying to follow that template. And that, to me, is not necessarily the recipe for success. Like, it's certainly the recipe for success for a handful of people who are succeeding at that. But what I think would be more valuable is what do you want to put out there in the world, and what message or big story or big idea do you have, and how can you design your business around that, not according to this template that everybody is trying to fit into. Like, how can you figure out, like, this is how much money I need to make. This is the kind of message I want to share. How can you figure all of that out? And really that comes down to understanding the business side of things and being willing to get creative on the business side of things. Like, not saying, well, I'm just going to follow the specific template, but being able to say, like, okay, that template's interesting. There's some stuff I can learn from it, and at the same time, I'm gonna design my own business, and I'm gonna do what's best for me and what's best for this story or this message, and I'm gonna make it work still on paper so that it all works out. Like, I'm aligned to that message and that book, and it's aligned to my audience. Even though my audience isn't like a million people, it's aligned to my audience, and I'm able to find them, and this is like going to really resonate with them. And that audience is going to be able to support me because I've built my value ladder or sales funnel or whatever you want to call it. And so it's really, I think there's a lot of business stuff in there and a lot of marketing stuff in there that authors could be getting more passionate about, instead of just kind of copying tactics of like this very specific template that we've been talking about, which is just like, you've got to write 10 books in a series, and it's got to be this long, and you've got to go for this specific audience that everybody else is going for. And if you want to break out of that and do something that works for you, then I think what we're talking about just makes so much sense.
Right, because at the end of the day, like, it's mostly marketing and sales. I mean, can we agree on that? Like, it's a little bit of writing and mostly marketing. No matter what you're doing, like, whether it's sales, like, I have a Verizon dealership, and I write books, and, like, I publish things, and, like, it's 80% marketing and sales and 20% all of that other stuff anyway. Like, whether you are not, even if you're not doing Facebook ads or Amazon ads, you're studying the market to find out how to write to market, so you don't have to do that stuff, but you can still, like, get the right cover and get all of this other stuff perfectly accurate, so you don't need to write Amazon ads. So, like, it's no matter what the thing is, if you want to be successful, and I've now done hundreds of these interviews, and pretty consistently across the board, it is mostly about sales and marketing. And then if you have a good day, you get to spend 2 to 3 hours on writing.
Yeah. No, I mean, 100% I would agree with that. And but I think what you're saying is really that marketing kind of starts before the product's created.
It does. But more importantly, like, once you learn all that marketing stuff, if you're willing to do that marketing stuff to be successful, why are you only using it to be successful in writing these $5 books when you can use almost all of those same principles to port over to do courses and do live signings and do all of these other things?
Yeah. No, I mean, 100%. Yeah, that I totally agree with that. And I think that there is some fear around that. I think the fear is around marketing in general. Like, writers think, like, I'm a writer, not a marketer. When actually, as a writer, you are a marketer. Like, because even in the process of writing your book, you had to figure out, like, hooks and, like all this stuff to make that book exciting, and to tell the story in a format that readers will like, and all that stuff.
They have to get them past the 20% mark, so they finish the book and continue on the next one. Like, that's all marketing.
It's marketing.
It's all marketing. I mean, look, the people that listen to this show already know this, but, like, at the end of the day, a book is a product. Not much different than a McDonald's Big Mac or a Wendy's Double Double, or I don't know why I keep doing fast food references, a toboggan. They're products. And if you learn how to sell a book, which is a productized thing, it's roughly the same principles apply to selling a course about that book, or selling an audio book, or doing a live reading of your book with like actors that you bring in. All of those things are not perfectly aligned, but they're like 90% aligned. If you wanted to stop selling books and then go sell Big Macs, you got a pretty good base, because it's all a productized service, which is with a business to consumer bent.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I totally agree. And I mean, and another piece to weave into it is really sometimes people think that, well, I'm writing these books, and so like having to do a course, I have to learn all this new stuff. What I think people don't realize is that course can actually make you a better book marketer, and vice versa. Like marketing your books can make you a better course marketer, and writing your books can make you a better course builder, and building a course can make you a better, book writer, I guess. And so I would say don't be afraid of losing focus a bit, because those skill sets, like we've been saying, they're really similar, and there's so much I don't know what to call it, but cross-pollination. There's so much cross-pollination between those two skill sets, and you're going to learn so much about either by doing either, I guess.
I mean, at the end of the day, we as authors are storytellers, and a course is telling a story, and all these things are telling stories. So if you can get over the hump, this marketing hump, or this I can't talk to people hump, you will actually be in a better position than most people, because you already know how to construct a cogent story, which is pretty much all marketing, sales, and speaking to people is about.
Yes. Yes, exactly.
Okay, so we need to work towards wrapping up. I'm really bummed I didn't get to this 10 stages of audience framework. I really wanted to do that. But I want to talk about The World Needs Your Book, which is your new product that's coming out, and your new project. I know we touched on it a little bit, but can you talk about that a little bit, and why people should check it out?
Yeah, so The World Needs Your Book. I mean, I think it's really about this conversation that we have just had, and it's basically about this idea, like I said, of putting the impact you want to make first, and then designing a beautiful and flowing and aligned business around it, and being open to those options that we have. And we can kind of build anything. It doesn't have to just be a book series or anything that fits into this really specific template that I think has kind of become the norm, I guess, of what you're supposed to do. So that's what the World Needs Your Book is about. It's really a call to make a stand for the message or story that's in your heart, and we'll figure out the details of the business piece, and like the audience building piece and all of that. Like that's all learnable, but like first tune into what do you really want to say to the world. And we have a lot of cool stuff happening at The World Needs Your Book. So we do have a course, it's a 10-month intensive coming out where you can go through this entire process with me. And there are like Q&As every week and that sort of thing. And then I'm also doing a 16-city tour for The World Needs Your Book to bring this concept to as many people as possible. So we'll be in 16 different cities, and it'll be like a day-long workshop that you can attend. So there's going to be a lot of cool stuff coming out. And if you want to sign up and hear about all of the stuff, you can go to theworldneedsyourbook.com.
Awesome. And so just to give a little bit of how this value ladder works, or how like this kind of breaking out can work for any author, I'm going to read a little bit about what you have combined in this World Needs Your Book program. So you're launching a book. You've also got a group program, a mastermind, and a 16-stop workshop tour. My guess is that a lot of what's going to be in the group program and the mastermind can be found in the book, but you are using the book as a launching pad to dive deeper in these other more expensive programs that you have, so that people can be able to work with you and get a more transformational experience on a deeper level. Is that accurate?
Yeah, I mean that's definitely exactly it. I think the book is going to share a lot of the why behind the World Needs Your Book, and it's really like a call to action. But a book as a product, it's especially for the nonfiction side, it doesn't necessarily spur you into action. So a lot of times we're reading a book very passively. And we really want like an idea or a feeling from a book. And so, the programs are really to go step by step through the action steps that we need to take. And, also they will have just a lot more content, because again, you have a book that's like a couple hundred pages, and you have a 10-month intensive that's gonna, that's obviously there's a lot more room to share a lot more content there. And then, with the workshops, it's going to be just a day. So again, it's more of like it's obviously can't share as much content as a 10-month intensive. So absolutely. I think, with the value ladder, there's definitely a bunch of different experiences at different price points that I've created for this. And, it's just an opportunity to go deeper if you want to.
Right. I love that. Go deeper if you want to go deeper, or if you want. I mean, look, we've all read nonfiction books and finished them and put them on the shelf and done nothing with them ever again, or pulled like one thing out and said, that's interesting, maybe I'll get to it one day. I very rarely gone to a intensive and not at least left with some action items that I had completed that day. So for that, it's about transformational, like having some transformational experience and paying to be transformed at a higher level. To me, on the fiction side, it's about experiential things. So like making the deeper the experience, the more someone is willing to pay for it. Like a ticket to Hamilton costs more than going on to Netflix, but people pay it because it is more an experiential and soul enriching experience to watch Hamilton in a theater than it is to watch like a replay of it on YouTube.
Right, exactly. Yep. And I think as creatives, that's something that we need to learn about ourselves, is just that we can create these different experiences and just support ourselves and our businesses better by just being able to do that, and not feeling that what we've created is enough. Because like you said, with Hamilton, it's like, you could probably find it on YouTube for free. So why do people keep paying like hundreds of dollars to go to it? Well, there's that reason. It's a different experience and it's a different value, even though it's the same content. And so we as creators need to get away from the idea that content is our only value, and realize that content is part of the value, but that experience is actually an even greater value. And if we can break through that mindset, then it'll just be so much easier to unravel or unfold a business that makes sense for us. So yeah, I just love how that all, that kind of comes back around.
Awesome. Okay, so this is the time in the show when all the people drawing at their drawing tables and writing and having been tuned out, all tune back in. All tune back in now. Listen real hard, because Monica is about to impart the one piece of wisdom, either something that she's said already or something that is completely new. The one thing that she wants you to leave this podcast with. Monica, what do you think?
That's such a big question. Yeah, I would say the one thing I want people to leave this podcast with is just to know that that you're good enough and that you can create really whatever you want, especially with the internet. We have so much opportunity. You can create whatever you want, and you can do business and you can do marketing, and you're perfectly capable of all of that stuff. So don't let these fears stand in the way if you're feeling fear around that, and just stay open to your options.
Awesome. And where can we find you? Where do you want to send people so they can find you online?
Definitely theworldneedsyourbook.com, and you can sign up to the email list and you'll start getting updates about that.
Awesome. Are you on Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, anywhere else they can connect to you?
Yeah, absolutely. I'm on all social media at Monica Leonelle. So it's Monica and then Leonelle.
Awesome. Thank you so much for being on, Monica. We absolutely appreciate it.
Thank you for having me. This was really fun.
So that was Monica Leonelle. I hope you enjoyed that episode. If you did, go thank her on social medias and definitely check out her website. Before I go, I want to remind you that the first chapter of my book, Sell Your Soul, How to Build Your Creative Career, is online for free at GoSellYourSoul.com. It's free, y'all. I made this book for you. From you guys talking to me for the past few years, this is your book as much as it is mine. So head on over to GoSellYourSoul.com and check it out today. Don't forget to subscribe, rate, and review the podcast on iTunes or wherever you get your podcast. And that's it.